Good evening. I'd like to call the Davie County Commissioners meeting to order for November 5th, 2018. This time I will ask Commissioner Wise Carver to lead us in the invocation.
Let's pray. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you this side of eternity for all your many blessings, Lord. We're thankful for the opportunity we have just to get together once a month here to do the county's work. And Lord, we just pray for our country, our county, Lord. And Lord, we know we got a special day tomorrow, Lord. And we know we have people who would like to steal an election. But Lord, we ask that you just watch over it and let everything be on the up and up. And just continue to bless our country. It's just been blessed in the last couple of years, Lord. Lord, we ask that you continue to bless this meeting tonight. Bless the board here. Just give them wisdom to make the right decisions on each thing. We're thankful for each one that's made the way out tonight, Lord. May each one receive a special blessing. Give them all a safe journey home. Just forgive us of our many sins. We thank you and bless you for all that you've done for us. We love you and thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Appreciate everyone coming out this evening. And we'll get going. The next item is to adopt the agenda. We have a couple changes that are on the bench before you. I'll ask Mr. Eller just to speak to those.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two things that were added. One is resolution endorsing the application for the NCDOT bicycle and pedestrian planning grant that our county is working on. This is part of our Greenway and Trailway strategy. In order to apply for that NCDOT grant, we needed a resolution from the board, and that's what's been added to the agenda. The second was a proclamation for this month being National Adoption Awareness Month, and in order to continue to raise and enhance our adoption efforts and support of foster care, we felt that appropriate to add to the agenda. There's another proclamation on the agenda I just want to highlight. One is our United Way kickoff. That wasn't added, but it is something that we very much support as staff and departments as we continue to move the needle on our United Way campaign. Mr. Chairman, I'd be remiss if I also didn't, at this point, under resolution, just note the hard work that our Hospital Foundation Board is going to do, has done for us, and the transition will be going through there, and appreciate you representing us on that board. With that, that's all my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions about these additions? If not, entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. The agenda is adopted. Thank you. All right, next we move to public comment period. Mr. Vogler, we have anyone signed?
Chairman, no one has signed up for that tonight, so we can forego public comments.
Okay. Next we move to, we have two public hearings. The first one, as I understand, is about a solar farm being presented by Quell Holdings, LLC. And I'll ask Mr. Meadwell to come forward and present that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight, you have zoning map amendment 05-18. This is a request by Quell Holdings, LLC to rezone portions of 3 tracts of property that total approximately 259 acres from residential agricultural and R20 to special purpose, special conditions. Included in your, the current property owners of are Roger Spillman, Robert and Kathy Cruz, and Debbie and Kenneth Spillman. Included in your agenda packages is several maps, one of those being a zoning map which outlines the pieces of property which are being requested to be rezoned. I do need to tell the board that a portion of this piece of property lies within the town of Moxville's planning and zoning jurisdiction. And that board last month issued a special use permit for the same type use. So the town has already approved that portion within their jurisdiction. The property is currently mostly vacant, wooded, as you can see by the aerial photograph that's attached to your in your agenda package. The Davie County Land Use Plan identifies this area as industrial. And this also corresponds with what the town of Moxville has their area classified to is as industrial. On our growth enhancement strategy, we have this identified as a rural growth area. This piece of property was originally zoned RA and R20 at the inception of zoning. So this zoning classification has not changed since 1973. The proposed district is the special purpose district, and I think, as the board is aware, we've had several of these, but this district requires certain standards for the district: acreage size, access, but I think the most important is that it requires that a community meeting be held. Quell Holdings did conduct that meeting in August 23rd of this year. Those notes are in your agenda packages. So. This, as I mentioned earlier, this is a special purpose, special conditions zoning, meaning that the applicant, staff, and or the board has the ability to add additional conditions onto the use. So these conditions have to be those type of conditions that will reasonably be able to address the impacts of the said use on subject property and those adjoining pieces of property. So transportation, the property currently has access to US Highway 601 via Crepe Myrtle Lane, but it also has access to McCullough Road. That's shown as, and I believe the applicant is going to use that just as possibly as a construction type entrance there. So issues to consider. As I mentioned, this is a special conditions rezoning. The board has the ability to place conditions. Issues to consider: the property's potential as a commercial use, the property's potential as a residential use. As always, anytime there's a development like this, it still has to go before our TRC, our Technical Review Committee, for compliance with the conditions that are outlined in the use itself, other sections of the zoning ordinance, as well as any conditions that the board may, in addition to what we're proposing tonight, to be adhered to. And as I mentioned, we have provided some draft conditions, and these conditions have to be agreed upon by both parties. So one is that minor modifications to the approval site plan may be allowed. Such modifications shall comply with applicable sections of the zoning ordinance. The applicant shall obtain all applicable required state and local permits. This would be the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Division of Environment Quality, erosion control, grading, any type of stream crossings, things of that nature. The use of the property shall be limited to a solar energy generating facility. So what you will approve tonight is for the special purpose district and one single use for the property, and that is the solar generating facility. And the applicant shall have 5 years from the date of approval to obtain development permits for the solar generating facility. If the applicant fails to develop the solar energy facility in that time period, the applicant shall make application to the county to change the zoning back to RA and R20. The planning board heard this at their September 25th meeting and voted unanimously to approve both the rezoning and conditions. Board action tonight. The board will need to actually make two motions: one on the rezoning itself, and two on the provided conditions. For the rezoning, the motion should be moved that the following statement be adopted in support of a motion to approve: that the amendment promotes the health, safety, and general welfare, is consistent with all applicable adopted plans, and considers the action to be reasonable and in the public interest. That said approval furthers the goals, objectives, actions, and policies of the land development plan and growth and enhancement strategy because it is in harmony with the surrounding area and uses and fits within the county's future land use plans as it integrates with the land use fabric of the county by limiting rural areas to generally accepted uses. to protect the character, quality of the county's environment, reducing land use incompatibilities, and ensuring adequate public facilities. To move a statement in support to deny the request based on reasons that you may supply. And 3, defer the amendment for additional considerations, and the same process for those conditions. So I'll be more than glad to answer any questions that the board has for me.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Meadwell?
Is this a lease or a purchase?
My understanding is it's a lease.
It is a lease. Okay. Should we ask that question?
You can ask that applicant that question.
Okay. How long is the lease?
Do you want to wait for the applicant to get up and speak? Or do you
It's fine with me, or they can tell me right now.
There are 3 separate leases with the 3 landowners. They are 35 to 40 years.
Okay,
20-year base terms and then 5-year options to be up to that amount of time.
thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Meadwell? Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Meadwell told you about 2 separate motions, and those can be found at the bottom of page 9, top of page 10, and then continuing on page 10 of your agenda packet.
All right, well, this is a public hearing, so at this time, I'll ask Mr. Vogler to tell us the rules of engagement.
Okay, the chairman has announced this is the day and hour for the public hearing on the proposed amendment pursuant to Article 20B of the Chapter 153A of the North Carolina General Statutes, and also pursuant to Section 153.251 of the Davie County Code and Ordinance to amend portions of the county zoning map for tax parcels K56, K510.1, and .01 and K511, consisting of approximately 259 acres more or less, from residential, agricultural, and residential 20 to special purpose, special conditions, SPC. It has been duly published, notice in the local paper of this public hearing, general circulation as required by by law, and the clerk of the board has attached the affidavit showing publication in said paper on a date for at least 10 days prior to today's date. I would ask all who wish to comment at this public hearing come forward to the podium, state your name, full name for the board, and then comment on the proposal, either for or against, or the applicant discussing the actual project itself. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. My name is Peyton Harris. I'm with Bird's Eye Renewable Energy. We own the entity Quail Holdings that proposes this project. We're a Charlotte-based renewable energy developer. We're proud to have brought 40 solar farms across North Carolina and Tennessee, 4 here in Davie County. I think Andrew did a great job of summarizing this, but just briefly, I'll say I think this will be a great partner to Davie County in that we are going to help Duke Energy meet its demand for 2.6 gigawatts of new renewable energy in the state, and this will help achieve that end. As Andrew mentioned, we had the voluntary meeting with the community. Everybody seems happy with our plan. We didn't really receive any negative comments or feedback. The project is expected to bring about $480,000 of tax revenue, net present value to the county over its life. We also feel that the project is consistent with the solar ordinance requirements, meets all the demands of buffering and setbacks and so on. And lastly, I would say we think that the project is consistent with the land development plan in that it's helping blend rural use to the west and the commercial industrial use of that area. This provides a nice blend of those things, helps build a strong economic base for the county. But otherwise, I think Andrew did a great job of summarizing the points, so I just really want to know if you have any questions that I can help address.
I have one question. I mean, these leases, you say up to 40 years. Once this thing is built and operating. Are your leases constructed where, in case of the landowner's death, it's still liable? I mean, it keeps on going, or is it, how's that set up?
Yes, the lease is tied, there are assignment provisions in there where it would go to their heirs. Furthermore, if they want to sell the land to somebody else, the lease obligates that lease to go to the subsequent owner of the land as well.
The lease would follow whatever landowner is.
Correct, exactly. So our investors, you know, this is it's an expensive prospect to build something like this, so they want certainty that they will have legal access, you know, rights to that land for the duration of the 40 years.
How long have you all been in business?
We were founded in 2009. In fact, in 2010, we developed what was the first solar QF in North Carolina. It was a 40-acre project in Cleveland County, and that sort of became the model by which you see a lot of the solar farms around the state. We actually, as I mentioned, we have 4 here in Davie County. We have the one on Eaton Road that we developed, and the one on Daniel Road. Those are similar in size, and they were built off of that model. And now you see that all around the state. So we've been around a long time in North Carolina solar terms. Yeah.
Good. Have you all decommissioned any projects?
No, we have not. And I think, you know, again, these things are built, the equipment is warranted up to 35 years. We have leases for 40. So none of these have been around to the point where that would have to happen, and all of them are still in great operating condition.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for the developer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone else wishes to come up and speak, you can come up at this time, state your name again for the board, and then make comments on the proposal. Mr. Chairman, seeing no one coming forward to comment, I would now turn the public hearing back over to you as board chair to close the public comment section of this public hearing, provide the board the opportunity then to discuss among yourselves what, if any, action you wish to take with regards to this matter.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Comments, concerns? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to either approve, deny, or defer. We gotta take this as 2 questions, the rezoning from RA and RA 20 to the SPC.
I would make that motion.
You make that motion with all the condition precedents that Mr. Meadwell
Yes,
spoke of.
Seen in page 9.
that will be on the same.
Well, all the language that you presented is what I meant on the rezoning, yes. Okay.
I would second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, so the rezoning is approved. Now we will entertain a motion to approve, deny, or defer the conditions as part of the rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve the conditions as set by the zoning board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. The conditions are approved, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Meadwell. All right, next we move to a public hearing regarding the voluntary agricultural district ordinance, and Mr. Liggins is going to present that, okay?
Get out of your way.
That's what, when I looked up, I was, what?
Okay, good evening, lady and gentlemen. I'm Eddie Legans. I'm currently serving as chairman of the Davie County Voluntary Agricultural District Board, and I want to recognize board members here tonight: Henry Walker, Bob Cruz, Ben Vogler, and then our county. What are you shaking your head for? Well, you were Vogler 50 years ago. Lynn Yoakley. I do know my board members, folks. And then Colleen Church, who is a county extension director, and also our advisor. First, I want to thank all you commissioners for serving Davie County. We really appreciate it. We may not agree with you all the time, but we do appreciate you making an educated, informed decision, and know that at least some of us citizens appreciate it. And also I want to thank Commissioner Ferguson, Commissioner Wisecarver. Unless something dramatic happens in the election tomorrow, they will be retiring from this board in the near future. And I do want to especially thank two of y'all for your service. Okay. Originally adopted in 2008 and amended in 2012 when the state changed qualifications for farms to enroll in the Voluntary Ag District program. And we're here again tonight asking for some more changes because the legislature again has made some changes. Currently, it needs updating to bring in line with North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 106, Article 61, Agricultural Development and Preservation of Farmland. The changes include a farm must be located in the unincorporated area of Davie County unless there is an agreement with a municipality through which the county is authorized to exercise the authority of the municipality on its behalf. To qualify, farmland must be real property that is engaged in agriculture as that work is defined by General Statute 106.581.1. And really the things that were removed was actually to make it easier for producers to enroll in this. And one was remove the statement requesting tax documents to increase the application rate. These things can be verified on a case-by-case basis. Property tax record showing that the property is participating in or eligible to participate in the present use value tax program, that was taken out. Farm sales tax exemption, I'm not going to read all this. Main thing is if it meets the qualification, the definition under general statute of a farm, then it is eligible to be enrolled. And also it corrected the statement which now reads that voluntary ag district signs cannot be placed on the right-of-way. So if you have any questions, I will attempt to answer them. If I don't feel comfortable answering them, I'll defer to our advisor, Colleen Church. Any questions? If not, we thank you. Go Pack.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Liggins. All right, so this is a public hearing, so I will ask Mr. Vogler to keep it straight, so go ahead.
Yeah, the chairman has announced this is day and hour of the public hearing on the proposed amendment pursuant to Article 20B of Chapter 153A of the North Carolina General Statutes, and also according to Title 15, Land Use of Chapter 157 of Davie County Code of Ordinance to amend portions of the county volunteer and enhanced voluntary agricultural district ordinance. It has been duly published. Notice of the public hearing in newspaper general circulation in Davie County is required. The clerk to the board has attached the affidavit showing the publication of said paper for a date for at least 10 days prior to date. I would ask anyone who wishes to come forward at this public hearing to comment, to actually come forward to the podium, state your full name for the board, and then make your comments.
Henry Lee Walker, and also I'd like to thank the board for what you do for the county. It's not an easy job, and we really appreciate it. I want to recommend that you adopt this. I was one of the ones that helped write it originally, and like anything, you go over a period of time, you need to make changes, revisit it. We're trying to make it easier and get it updated and eliminate some things that we thought was a little intimidating and get it to state code. And I recommend that you pass it. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to come forward? Seeing no one else coming forward to comment, I would now turn the public hearing back over to you as board chair to close the public comment section of this public hearing, provide the board the opportunity to discuss among yourselves what, if any, action you wish to take with regards to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Ogler. All right, at this time, we will declare the public hearing closed. Comments, concerns?
I make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'd make a second, Mr. Chairman, and also I'd like to make a comment too that I appreciate, and I know this board appreciates, all the time that these people put in on their committee as well.
Certainly agree with that statement. So, any other comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of passing the ordinance as amended and recommended, raise your hand. That is approved. Thank you very much. All right. Next up is the consent agenda, which is fairly lengthy. Before we vote on that, I don't know if anybody's got any questions or comments. I would like just to speak to Resolution F1, the Hospital Foundation Board. That is fairly significant in the county, is getting between real estate and or the county is getting benefit of real estate and actual money, somewhere around $1.5 million. So we appreciate what that board has done. Two of the founding members hopefully can be here next month for some further comments on this, but really appreciate what that board has done for the county. So. Any other comments about or questions about the consent agenda?
I'd like just to make a comment about the G2, the state of emergency declaration for Hurricane Michael. You know, we've had a couple hurricanes already this year, and I'd like to just throw out a, big applause for our emergency management systems and all our first responders and swift water rescue, and it sort of hit home this time because my dad was one of the ones that had to be rescued. It really it messed him up, as far as being trapped in the water and in the dark for 4 or 5 days, and these people, they put their life on the line every time they go out, and we appreciate them. And sometimes you just don't know till it's home. So I just want to throw it out there.
Okay, thank you for that. That's very true. Hurricane Michael was, or not, the storm Michael that came through here was a lot more devastating than Florence. But anyway, appreciate what all the emergency service and public safety does here in the county. So can't thank them enough. Okay, any other comments about the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please raise your hand. Thank you. That is approved. All right, next we will move to the county manager's report. Mr. Eller.
Mr. Chairman, just a few items.
Hold on, John. Hold on a second.
Mr. Chairman, who made that motion? Who seconded it?
What?
Oh,
Back up. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. How about that?
So move.
I have a motion now. How about a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, sorry about that. Got it caught up in the moment there. Thank you, Mark. Okay, now, let's try it again. Mr. Eller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would echo Commissioner Wisecarver's comments, and rightfully so. That's an emotional thing to talk about, and we have a lot of things to be thankful for and blessed for in Davie County, and our public safety is definitely one of those things, and even reaching farther than this county with our teams and how they deploy out. I'll be brief tonight. A few things just to take note of. On the 11th of this month, which is a Sunday at 2 o'clock, we'll have our Veterans Day event. It'll either be held downtown on the square if the weather permits, or at the Senior Center if it doesn't permit. It's a great way for us to honor our veterans. We're still moving forward with the first quarter of our strategic plan. We'll hopefully be presenting some preliminary items to you next month at your meeting. We also have, as it relates to some town hall meetings, just to make you aware, you may have heard of some feral swine listening sessions that'll be occurring. I know certain parts of the county have dealt with that. The first session will be held Wednesday, November 7th at our own Development Services Building here in Moxville, 298 East Depot, from 6 to 8 p.m. And the folks will be there, and there'll be subsequent meetings from that. But anybody who has an issue there, who may want more information, should be encouraged to attend that meeting on Wednesday. We've completed all of our town hall meetings for public safety. We've put information on our website for the quarter-cent sales and use tax. We've tried to address any questions that we've gotten. And I just want to thank this board for historically what they've tried to do in that regard, and what they're trying to do now. As far as our county taxes, we've kept our tax rate pretty flat for the past 10 years without any increases for anything that the citizens hadn't themselves voted for. And to look at a county who hasn't really increased taxes for operations over 10 years, I think that talks about the good stewardship that this board and past boards and our staff have really worked hard to be as efficient and effective as we can with the money that we have. All of our budget information and our audits are on the county's finance page. We put that out there for folks to see, so I would encourage anybody who thinks that we're not efficient, effective, we'd love to talk with them. We fielded several questions from citizens as it relates to how these funds would be used if the voters choose to vote that referendum in tomorrow. But we appreciate the support of this board. I just wanted to say that during my report because I know all of you care very much about our efficiency and our effectiveness and making sure that we're good stewards of our resources in Davie County. In addition to that, I want to thank all of our staff for the great work they're doing, our public safety folks for what happened over the Halloween break, just making sure that our children were safe and that our citizens were safe, but then also our recreation staff for putting on a great event at the Brock that we got good response for. And then also to our utility staff as well for our Northeast Davie sewer bids coming back in a very favorable way. So thanks to all of you and to our staff for their hard work on future infrastructure in this county as it relates to those needs. And then I'll close by just thanking all of our staff. I mean, I could brag about every department up here and how great they've been. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to just make sure that things happen as far as operations in the county, and you truly do have a great staff that I'm very proud of, and I know all of you are as well. So thank you for all you do for Davie County.
Any questions for Mr. Eller? Okay, thank you, John. All right, do we have any old business to come before the board this evening?
Mr. Chairman, in light of tomorrow's election and the promotion of this quarter-cent sales tax, I just want to make a few comments. And last month we had a motion and a vote and on how to allocate some of this money. And the money that we voted on last month was initially was going to the smaller departments in the county. And I think we, as this board, we've done a disjustice to the smaller departments in the county when we take this money away and give it to the larger departments, and not really create a CapEx fund for all the departments to be able to utilize. And, you know, I know the way it's set up, that if the sales tax gets over 817,000, then yes, they would be a CapEx fund established for the same purpose. But the chances are of that CapEx fund ever really getting off the ground and going anywhere is slim to none. Where with this $76,000 that has been allocated to these other larger fire departments would make a substantial contribution each year to this CapEx fund. And if Advanced Fire Departments is successful in their fire district vote, then, you know, it's almost $110,000 a year. So in 10 years, we have over $1.1 million for all the fire departments to be able to utilize. You know, I have personally spoke to every one of the smaller fire department chiefs and just put the question to them. This is basically, I felt like this was basically their money, and how would they want it to be spent or be, you know, allocated out. And every one of them said that they would like to see it go into a CapEx fund. Now, you know, I feel like if we don't listen to them and it's originally their money to start with, I think we're doing them a disjustice. And Mr. Chairman, in light of that, I would ask that this board set aside the motion and that was made last month and the vote, and reconsider this.
Okay, so you're making that as a motion.
Yes, sir.
Motion on the floor to set aside the motion that was made at the October meeting on the allocation of the $77,000 of the $3.5 million that goes to fire tax, should the sales tax be successful tomorrow. Have that is a motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would second that motion.
Okay. A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I feel that this time this is probably a little bit, since it was sprung on us here at the last moment, a little bit premature to take a vote on this. I think it would be proper to table this motion, and if it does pass, then take it up after that.
Well, we have a motion and a second, so we'll need.
Got a motion to table, but you don't have a second on that yet. You would have to have a second on that. And then if you have a second, you would vote on the motion to table first. If it failed, then you'd vote on the motion as originally presented.
Okay. So you're making, Mr. Poindexter, you're making a motion to table. You're
Yes,
making
sir.
that as a motion. Okay. All right. Would anyone like to second that motion? I will second it for the sake of trying to be fair and transparent to the whole process, which I think we've done. But given it is the 11th hour here on this issue, I will go along with that motion, or I'll make that as a second. So any discussion on tabled motion?
Can I just ask, Richard, what's your strategy here? Table until
Until the next meeting, till we have time to review and to see if it even passes. It may not be an issue at all.
I have I have a problem with this because we have gone out and talked to the people about voting for this, and everybody's been promoting it for basically what I thought was everybody gets a little bit of the pie. And if we're going to change it to where just one small group gets all the pie, I think that is a problem, personally.
Well, I would just say this, I think those three departments are getting a significant increase. This is just over the $70-some-odd thousand. And there was discussion about the issue of setting it aside as a CapEx. Robert has the figures here. I believe you could indicate to us, Robert, what their increases are in terms of the.
Well, without the $76,000, Advance would receive $31,995. Moxville would receive $82,308, and then Smith Grove was $69,415. That's in addition to what the 2018-19 allocation would be. So they are getting an increase. So it ain't like nobody's getting nothing. And I would argue that point till I go in my grave.
Well, if my calculation may be wrong, but 10 times 40 is $400,000, the way I figured. And if we're giving 10 of the smaller ones $40,000, and we're going to raise $418,000, or whatever the number is, in the sales tax, and we're going to put the rest of it in CapEx, looks to me like they get it all. Sales tax.
Your sales tax is $817,000, not $400,000.
The fire departments get half of it.
Right.
$418,000.
But what I'm saying is each of the fire departments are getting an increase, on all this. You're just taking $76,000 from the smaller 10 departments and giving it to the bigger 3 to make their pot a little bit heavier. And I just don't feel like that's right. I mean, and you're not, chances are of a CapEx fund ever being established and growing is slim to none. This way here, it's guaranteed, and it's open to all the fire departments, not just, the small 10. It's open to the bigger ones also, to draw off that. It's just, of course, if the sales tax don't pass tomorrow, all this argument is null and void. I'm just.
I agree, and any board in the future can do whatever they want to when it comes budget time with this money, but, I think we told the people we told people one thing, and then if we change something tonight with election in the morning, I think that is ridiculous.
We're not changing anything except the allocation if we change anything at all. I mean, the money's still the same, the purpose is still the same, it's just the way it's being distributed.
The way it's being distributed is important to me.
Well, might be, but it's important to me too.
I understand.
Well, again, there's no, as we talked last month for quite some time, there's no, someone's going to be upset here one way or another. One of the departments, but Mr. Ferguson's point, I think, is if you don't give something to the big 3, it's part of the sales tax itself. They're not going to get anything except their true 4 cents. So we're probably not going to agree on this because we're same position we were, same arguments being revisited from last month.
What I'm hearing y'all say that the big 3 is not getting anything from the sales tax. That's totally false. They are getting something. I just told you how much they were getting over the 18-19 allocation if this passes. All we're going to do is add another $16,790 to Advance, $28,531 to Moxville, and $23,629 to Smith Grove if you take this $76,000 and distribute it to them.
How much is 10 times 40?
I know what 10 times 40 is, John.
It's $400,000. The sales tax, they're getting that entire amount of money if it goes this way. and the other group gets nothing out of the sales tax. And I think if they've been out there and voted for it, they deserve something. That's just my position on it. Well, let's vote on the issues here and we'll.
Well, we have some of the fire departments here tonight, so if you want to vote it down, then go ahead and vote it down in front of them.
Any other comments? All right, Ed, Mr. Vogler, so we have a motion and a second to table the question.
And that's a preemptory motion. So you would vote on it first, and if it fails, then you vote on the second motion.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to table the motion. So we'll call that question first. All in favor of that, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed to that, raise your hand. Okay, so that passes 3-2. So
You do not need to have a vote on the second motion then.
okay, all right,
It's been tabled.
all right. Okay, any other old business to come before us this evening? All right, have been any new business to come before us this evening? All right. Next, we have a closed session, and entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11-3, to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body. And there's also a closed session item pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11-6, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or an employee or prospective public officer or employee. Would someone like to make the motion to go into closed session to deal with those two issues?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All right, we are in closed session. I appreciate you being here. We will be back out when we get finished. Thank you. All right, we are back in open session. Appreciate the few of you sticking around. Couple things that come from closed session that we need to address and vote on. So the first one is the recommendation from legal counsel on the Ingersoll Rand property tax assessment. So if someone would like to entertain a motion to approve legal counsel's recommendation on the proposal that Ingersoll Rand has made.
And Mr. Chairman, I will hand to the clerk to put into the minutes the exact terms and conditions of that settlement, which we shared with the board both tonight and last week, so that is actually in the minutes itself. It's what is in yellow.
I made the motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yeah, all in favor of the recommendation on the Ingersoll Rand tax assessment, raise your hand. That is approved. Thank you, Mr. Vogler. Second item, we have approved we've discussed John Eller, the county manager's performance for the year of 18, and we would like to entertain a motion for his performance bonus to be effective 1/1/19.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is a one-time performance bonus based on a performance for 18 of $4,223.
Yes.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that passes 5-0. All right. We're to Commissioner's comments. I would, seeing we have not many people here, I will entertain a motion to dispense with those. Motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. 5-0, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you for being here.